Rick and Morty comic issue 38. We start out with Rick, Beth, and Jerry looking up at a stereotypical dark castle with lightning striking nearby for the atmosphere, as Morty's led along by Beth with a leash because he led them to the castle. And it's smart of Rick to wear a sash full of stakes and already have one in his hand, and he's wearing a garlic necklace. People can have allergies to all sorts of things, so vampires being hurt by garlic could make sense as a universal allergic reaction. Beth and Jerry sure are great parents if they love Summer enough that they'll risk their lives to go save them. They probably figure that Rick needs strength in numbers right now. Jerry's the only one who's realistically scared, while Beth looks just as determined as Rick. Jerry proves he's no better than Rick by asking Rick if he could just clone a new Summer out of cowardice, and Rick just hypocritically calls him out on not being a hero when he just said he could replace Morty. Out of complete nowhere, Rick reveals that if you kill the Vamp Daddy, they revert, so Morty and Summer will be back to normal. Well, that's a convenient Deus Ex Machina. That doesn't make any sense. Rick really should have just had an antidote then. He had a cure for tuberculosis just fine. He had to come here to save Summer. So they already had an idea for another issue for the arc. And he could have cured Morty already by this point and the plot wouldn't be that different here. Those vampires have to literally be magical beings. You'd think if there were vampires in a mostly sci-fi show, vampirism would be made more like a relatable scientific thing, like a parasite or a virus. If it's that easy, that's the wimpiest virus ever. We see Summer sitting on a bed looking unintimidated of the vampires, being asked to tell them again of the god of the daytime. She says she's empty and asks for diet nectar, and she wastes a page talking about pop culture references I don't get, which bores me. It's interesting how she's able to stall them turning her by giving them new information. It reminds me of the Arabian Nights story framing device. Morty coughs and Jerry gets concerned, and Rick says that he's gone too long without feeding and became weak. Jerry takes it to heart that the family's been talking about killing a father, and takes it to heart more justifiably when Beth says she'll take care of it because she's used to being preyed on by parasites. Jerry's just concerned about being insulted instead of realistically being upset at Morty using her arm. I said they were great parents earlier, but they're really not. I'd just like to give credit where credit is due. They're having a great moment by even being here in the first place. Suddenly they all get threatened by vampires at once, and I guess they dodged them just in time when they tried dogpiling them from right above them. Rick throws something that vaporizes most of them in a flash, and I didn't like the needlessly gory panel afterwards. Some of them are still alive, so he has to try more to earn his victory properly. So he realizes his lightsaber's low on battery and just punches instead. It's more realistic that there would be a battery. One of them jumps on his back and he presses a button on his wrist gadget, which summons metal around his neck to protect it that breaks the vampire's fang. Exactly how I would expect a mad scientist to deal with vampires in the first place. But why wasn't that collar on him in the first place? His garlic necklace was. He continues to impress me as he summons weapons just by moving his wrists and shoots stakes out of them. I really hate how gory this is. Jerry brags about being a vampire and is told that he just killed a bat. And I guess the writer was intentionally trying for hypocritical humor to call out how Rick is being too heartless, calling Jerry the sociopath, when Jerry is clearly crying about what he did. Beth says that Summer has to be in Steven's room because it's a dumb teenage boy's room, which would be a siren call to her, showing how well she knows her for once. Though if she was going by that logic, you'd think she'd assume Summer was already turned into a vampire by sleeping with that teenage boy, because why else would she think the teenage boy's room would be a siren call to her? So, she didn't entirely know Summer, because she did not like Morty. Rick tells Beth to find Summer, and I guess I'm forced to assume the vampires only showed up behind him right as he finished what he said. Because it'd be ridiculous if they didn't fight him in all the time he was saying that. Were they running up to him the whole time? Why is Rick stupidly facing away from them the whole time he's saying this when he could just keep shooting at them with his ray gun the whole time? At least he was smart enough to have a ray gun after all. He tells Jerry he needs them to feed the ammo to this gun, calling Jerry dumpster fire to explain why he's okay with risking his life. Jerry says he can't do this because of his beliefs. Rick calls out, "First of all, Jerry, if your belief system was even partially accurate to what that book suggests, you would have voted differently in the last election and visit fewer torrent sites." Torrent sites? Because of the "thou shalt not steal" thing? I'm pretty sure that commandment wasn't written with piracy in mind. It means that you're not literally depriving someone of something, which is stealing. Jerry justifies that things are expensive, and Rick says that the fact that he believes it at all is why he's loading the gun and he's not. So he tells Jerry to shove the Bible into the gun to be shot out of it. Oh, that's why they're having this conversation. I didn't know he was talking about the book. I thought he was complaining about killing someone all of a sudden. So he gets shot at vampires and destroyed. They keep that to off-screen, but nothing else. I guess all the stakes are too stuck and stuff to be shot out of it instead, but I really expected him to just have a ray gun instead. But yeah, this fight scene is great because there's so much variety in what's going on. It was sweet what Beth said to Morty. Even in a situation like this, she still finds a reason to love him. It's sort of like you're a weird little toddler again. It's kinda cute. All because he wasn't able to talk, for some reason. He talked just fine when he was in bed with those women. I guess the serum removes his ability to talk. She says that she used to have to put a leash on him after she opened a bottle of wine, or he'd run off. And she justifies that Jerry cared too much about model trains to look after him. She enjoys being able to talk to him without interruptions, so much that she says while petting his head, "You know, maybe it would be better if you stayed this way. Stay my little boy for forever. Then you would never grow up, eventually moving out, leaving me alone with your father." Then Jerry shows appreciation for Rick, saying that he brought a holy water grenade. Why would vampires be allergic to water anyways? That makes no sense, but at least here it's explained to be a grenade. You'd think they'd explain what the hell makes the water holy, like scientifically. What makes it chemically different from all the other water? It has to be chemically different, or else it wouldn't be any different from other water. Because this is a sci-fi show, and Rick's not even commenting on the fact that there's holy water that he somehow has. Jerry gets fed up with being insulted for being realistically afraid, and Jerry says he'll find Beth on his own and earn her respect. Rick snarks that he couldn't even find the door out of here without his help. He needs his help for the same thing again, and finds Beth and Morty trapped in coffins that mercifully still show their faces in them. The heroes get threatened by bats, and Rick doesn't even remember Coach Ferratu. Probably because he's killed so many people already. He asks Jerry to get his flask out so he can pull it, and then after he's taunted by the head vampire with generic dialogue that his grandson's already lost, Rick says, "Are you serious? That's a revenge? Look how cool you made him." Rick really loves his grandson more than even he knows. Not only did he save him after all, which he should have thought of trying right away if this was an option, but I guess he was all talk. But he even appreciates him like this. The vampires walk into the room because Summer's phone charger needs to be used, and Ferratu Jr. isn't lectured for letting Summer take advantage of him all this time, when he was called a horrible Dracula for liking new things. Instead he's told to kill when he's more concerned with that, and Jerry kills him, and brags about being a hero. That wasn't a bat now, was it? It was a ding-dang vampire, and who's the hero now, huh? I like they said ding-dang, because that's so him. Beth fortunately relates to how I couldn't help but feel, saying that he was just a kid. And Summer cries because she wanted to go to the mall with him during a weekday. Jerry complains that his family's sending him mixed messages about when you can kill something. The head vampire threatens to enslave Summer, making me wonder why he didn't do that a lot earlier because he had nothing to do for days. You'd think he would check on Summer to make sure that the horrible Draculas actually turned her. But I guess he thought, naturally, that it was so easy that even they would never screw that up. Beth throws Morty at his head, using him as a Chekhov's gunman again. She suddenly gives a heartwarming speech explaining why she respects her daughter. "I get it, my daughter seems like magic to you. You know why? Because she is. She's smart and she doesn't give a shit, and that's terrifying to mortals too. You're all fascinated with her because she scares you. She should." She trusts Summer to kill him. I guess he was being held still. And it's lampshaded how needlessly horrifying vampire killing looks for the heroes to do it. There's a reason I never gave Buffy a chance. Jerry says, no one's upset with Summer for killing that guy, and Beth justifies they threatened his daughter. Some vampires hug Summer, with one of them thanking her for teaching her so much while being nice enough to not hate her for defending herself. One of the vampires bought a skateboard, and the other is going to try pastels. I wish we'd see that instead of the last few panels. At this point, it seems uncharacteristically nice of these characters to not... I guess they really do only care about killing vampires that are trying to attack them. As usual, the story was too gory for its own good, making it hard for me to look back on it fondly. It's just a typical problem with showing vampires not disappearing in a puff of smoke after they're killed, instantly after they're killed. And instead showing the blood. I like that Rick shot Stace from a gun, that was creative at least. And the neck collar was smart, but otherwise it's all just what you'd expect. The story doesn't even show us Morty go back to normal. Didn't the head vampire get killed? Isn't that supposed to revert him? Why would it make sense for there to be a delay? But it can be commended for a few of its sweet moments where Rick and Beth still appreciate Morty for what he is, with Beth reminding us that she can be a loving mother after all, even if she's being selfish at the same time. And at least Summer had a positive influence on the vampires that were spared. At least this arc is only 2 issues long. It's not like Sonic Universe where every arc consists on being the same overly long amount of issues. They could have easily had a padding issue where they ran into trouble when Morty was leading them to the castle,